Alright guys, Ryan Person Outdoors here. Today we're going to be doing some tackle tips. I apologize, there's some road noise. I'm doing this out in front of my house. It's a little windy, so I didn't want to do it out at a lake, and if the lighting's good enough, I figured I'd do it outside instead of inside. So, like I said, we're talking about night fishing. That summer night fishing, it's hot, you're trying to get away from the heat, and a lot of times those fish, middle of the day, they kind of just turn off. They don't like that high sun, they don't like that hot water. They just get sluggish. It's kind of like winter fishing. But at night, it's kind of like having that morning bite, but all night long, or that evening bite, but all night long. There are certain windows where it's better or worse, but that just depends on the fishery you're on, the forage they're on. There's all kinds of factors. But the baits are very basic. This is what I do pond fishing all the way up to fishing big lakes that are 80, 90 miles long. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Starting off, my favorite bait, my favorite way to fish is power fishing, especially at night. I like to cover a lot of water, cover a lot of bank. So if you're a shallow water fisherman, this is your time to shine in the summertime, because a lot of those active fish in the summertime during the day are deep. Those shallow fish are only active in the mornings and the evenings for the most part, unless you're on some killer flipping bite, flipping docks, shade lines, whatever. But with this swim jig, I like to slow roll it, kind of like you would a spinnerbait during the day. So I'm targeting grass edges, I'm hitting hard cover, riprap, another car, sorry, riprap, lay downs, brush piles, but you're just trying to make contact with cover. Obviously, because it's a jig, it's pretty weedless. LS Lures makes this one. This is a pretty killer jig if you ask me. It's got a pretty special hook on it. We can do a specific video on swim jig fishing and talk about that. But like I said, swim jig, very simple. I like black. Black and blue is a good color. Trailer wise, as you can see, there's a craw on there. That's my favorite. You get the most thump out of the bait. At night, you're trying to key in on that predator instinct. They really use their lateral lines when they're hunting at night. So trailers, that's just a basic Christie craw. Any of your thumping style jig trailers that have those appendages will work. If you're going, another way to get that disturbance in the water is bulk. So if you're not a big craw guy, beaver baits, they work phenomenal. They just have that bulk, you get that presence in the water. And then your swim baits, little 3-inch swim baits, they work great on the back of that jig as well. We'll keep it moving, keep with moving baits. Another car, sorry. But with another way to target those fish, if they're not hitting the swim jig, that's a very subtle approach. Sometimes I'm just in a fish catching mood. I start with the swim jig. It's the easiest way to determine if there's fish around, but a really fun way to catch them, banging my rod on the lift gate there. Another fun way to catch them is a spinnerbait. I like a 1/2 ounce, 3/4, even a 1 ounce spinnerbait with a big Colorado blade. I have heard guys catching them on willow leaves. I'm just going to talk about stuff that I've done and stuff that I have confidence in. This is a War Eagle. I'm talking to the guys at LS right now about getting a night fishing spinnerbait made, because I'm a fanatic about them. You get some pretty killer hard bites on this, you know, those slackline spinnerbait bites that we all love. I forgot to talk about the rod. I'll come back to this swim jig rod, but with the spinnerbait, I like a 610 medium heavy. Fast, extra fast, not a huge deal to me, but I do like that medium heavy. I like to throw 15 to 17 pound line. Like I said, you are fishing cover, and you are going to throw your bait on the shore a lot, so you need some heavier line to get unhung. And it's nighttime, they can't see it. So, like I said, 610 medium heavy. That's a Loomis IMX Pro. I'm not super brand specific. For you guys, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what's best, but I tend to spend the money to get the better stuff. It just makes the experience better. But this rod that we're going to talk about now for the swim jig, it's the opposite end. This is a higher end Lose, but still lower end compared to a Loomis. This is a 610 medium heavy as well, but I'm using straight braid. That ultimately, when you're using a softer rod, if you use braid, you're stiffening up. That's the way I like to think about it. So with that 50-pound braid, you have no problem horsing fish out of grass and driving that hook home. Continuing with moving baits, we're going to talk about chatterbaits. Obviously, if you talk about a swim jig and a spinnerbait, you got to talk about a chatterbait. Black and blue, June bug, kind of my favorites. I kind of lean away from them just because you got that open hook, and I'm fishing a lot of wood. Now, if I'm just fishing straight grass or rock or just flat banks, a chatterbait's a good way to go. You won't be hung up as much. But when you're fishing wood, you're going to be fighting getting hung up, casting into trees, getting wrapped around branches. So chatterbait's probably not your best bet. A spinnerbait or a swim jig's a better way to go. But still a killer bait, produces a lot of thump. That thump is what those fish are using to locate it. Like I said, they're using their lateral lines to hunt. Same trailers. Like I said, we're going to keep it super simple. Literally the same 3 black and blue trailers you can use on that chatterbait, another car. But fly was in my face. 3/8 ounce, half ounce, something you can keep in that middle of the water column, because you are going to be fishing shallower, so you need to be able to get it out of there, not be hung up all the time. And while we're on that moving bait kick, we'll go ahead and talk about top waters. This is a buzz bait, obviously. Catches them during the day too. I like a black buzz bait. LS makes a good one. This one happens to be a War Eagle. I would check out the LS one. They hand tune every single bait. So I don't know if you can hear. I can't get it to do it. There's a little bit of a squeal there. That's because I've beat this bait to death. I've fished it a lot. I've wallowed out that blade a little bit to where it squeaks. So they hand tune them, so when you get them, they squeak. Check out those LS buzz baits. Black, great color, but they're just finding it based on the profile and the disturbance. A little bit slower presentation, but still a fun one. Who doesn't love hard hook sets? This one's a little bit more difficult because frog fishing is a very visual thing. But a black frog is killer at night, especially if you're fishing weed beds. I like to do it over sparser stuff just because you got a better chance of keeping your bait clean. Popping frog is, sorry folks for all the noise. A popping frog is kind of the better way to go. I like it because of the disturbance, but it also doesn't come through grass as well. So if you're fishing really, really thick stuff and you know that they're in there and you have to throw a frog to catch them, I would throw a traditional frog, but fun way to catch them. Get hard blow-ups and you get to set the hook hard. That's the way to go. This one's kind of a wild one. I've just started playing with this one. This is it's a G-Rat, and I forgot what it's called, but it's a top water, Wild Willie. It's a G-Rat Wild Willie. And this is the the Magnum version or the large version. They make two sizes. This is the 6-inch, 2-ounce bait. Very large. It's like a big topwater glide bait, pretty much. They're just finding this based on the water displacement and the color and profile, obviously. But I really think it's a cool bait. You get some cool bites on it. So really enjoy the night fishing thing. Don't make it a stressful thing. It's supposed to be fun. Even if you're fishing night tournaments, like, they are a blast. You'll catch some quality fish at night. We're gonna talk about slowing down a little bit. A 10-inch worm. This is just a 10-inch black worm, ribbon tail worm. That's a 5/0 straight shank in there with a 3/8 ounce Woo Tungsten bullet weight. I like to peg mine. Then Woo Tungsten sells some bobber stops too. But yeah, I like to peg mine. If you're fishing a lake, dragging points, just like you would during the day, you know, fish them a little bit shallower though. Don't need to do this a lot of the time. A lot of the time I can catch them on those moving baits, but sometimes you're fishing a very specific piece of cover where you need where you need that that weedlessness and that slow presentation to make sure you're picking it apart. But a lot of times you're just covering water, trying to get in front of as many fish as you can. For a rod and line setup, I lean towards medium heavy a lot of the time. I like a 7-foot medium heavy, fast action. Heavier line obviously stiffens up the whole setup. So I'm using 20-pound, 100% fluorocarbon, high-speed gear ratio reel. With that spinner rate, I like a low-speed gear ratio reel, and then with the swim jig, I like a high-speed gear ratio reel. So really the only slow-speed gear ratio reel you need is for the spinner rate, and it's not even a need. You could, you know, just make yourself slow down. I've done that with 8-to-1 gear ratio reels, slow rolling spinner baits. It's painful, but you can do it. So just wanted to finish up the video by talking about some odds and ends of night fishing that are important to me. Always have headlamps. I do not use the headlamp when I'm fishing. I try to get my eyes acclimated. I try to use the headlamp as little as possible. So if you can get your eyes used to the light, the darkness, you'll eventually start to be able to see shapes, kind of see that shoreline, you can see the water out in front of you. You can use that moonlight, that skylight, even if the moon is not showing. Your eyes will eventually adjust. But you always need to have a headlamp for navigating any kind of standing timber, shallow water, and then handling fish. You know, you're messing with fish with hooks in the rounds, so having a headlamp is kind of important. Getting that fish unhooked, safer for you, safer for the fish. Just make sure you have them. If you're fishing out of a big body of water and you're fishing out of a boat, make sure you have the proper Coast Guard lights, approved Coast Guard lights. Make sure you have life vests. It's really important to have life vests at nighttime. There's not a lot of people on the water, so your safety is important. Make sure you have life vests. But other than that, you know, take advantage of getting out of the heat, getting to target a different population of fish that aren't biting during the day, and you'll catch some really, really big bass doing this. I think in the past couple weeks since I've started night fishing with my buddy Brett this summer, we've boated, you know, a handful of 20-pound bags, definitely a few 15-pound bags, and then some 5 and 6 and 7-pound bass, and we're in northern Missouri, so not a big bass place. So imagine what you guys down south could be doing. Like I said, do this in your farm ponds, do this in your neighborhood ponds. Bass bite at night. Thanks for watching, guys.